All right, number one, what is the solution to the given equation? All right, so we're going to get k plus 12 equals 336. So we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. We're going to get k equals, it's supposed to be 12, not 13. 4, 2, 3. There we go. Answer choice B. Function f is defined by fx equals x cubed plus 15. What is the value of f2? So what is the value of this equation when x equals 2? So let's plug it in. We have fx equals x cubed, which means 2 is going to be x, so we're going to get 2 cubed plus 15. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, or you can plug that into your calculator. So you're going to get 8 plus 15, and that's why f of x, when x equals 2, equals 23. The answer choice is C. Okay, number 3. Sean rents a tent at a cost of $11 per day, so let's write that out, $11 per day, plus a one-time insurance fee of $10. So this is a one-time fee, $10. One time. Which equation represents the total cost C in dollars to rent a tent with insurance for D days? So it's a Y equals, mx plus b, put that in the equation. So we know C is going to be our Y, so that's the cost equals $11 per day. So we're going to get 11D. And it's going to be plus the one-time $10 fee. So this is how I would draw that equation. Let's look at the answer choices. So this is wrong because this says basically like every day. For some reason, you're going to have 10 times 11, which is the cost per day, but that's not right because $10 is a one-time fee. It shouldn't be multiplied by anything. B is wrong because, once again, that's not the proper equation. It's $11 per day, not $10 per day. That's what B implies. C is looking pretty good. And then D, once again, it's $11 per day, not $10 per day because the insurance fee is $10 and it's $11 per day. So D's out and C is the correct answer choice for number 3. All right, number 4. In the figure shown, line M is parallel to line N. What is the value of x? Okay, so what they're telling us is because these are parallel lines, and they have a line going through them at 2 different points, or at 1 point for each. And so what this is telling us is that these angles are similar. So this means that the same angle for angle M will be equal to an angle from N, because they're similar. And so if we know this is 26, then we know this is 26 degrees. We know this is x degrees. That is what it's telling us. And it would be the same here. So like this angle is the same as this angle, and this angle is the same as this angle. That's how parallel lines work when they give you these problems. And so I'm trying to find x. Well, you know that if you were given a line like this, the amount of angles from here to here is 180 degrees, or the amount of degrees in those angles. And so knowing that, we can conclude that it would be x plus 26 degrees. So the distance from here to here would equal 180 degrees. So all you have to do is subtract 26 degrees from both sides. You get x equals 154 degrees. And that's how you know it's answer choice D. All right, number 5. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each. Okay, so he paid a total of $165 total. And this is because he had a down payment of $37 and then P payments of $16. Which of the following equations represents this solution? All right. Well, I mean, I drew it out, and this makes sense because this is all that he paid. He paid this one time, and then followed by $16 a month, or P monthly payments. And so let's just see what matches this. All of these have a positive 165. I don't like this one because the 37 is negative. Don't like this one because 37 is on the wrong variable. 37 should be on the variable. 16 should be 16p plus 37. Oh, I like C. And then 37p once again. It is $16 per month and $37 was the one-time fee. So that's incorrect. So C is going to be the correct answer choice for number 5. Okay, number 6. If y equals fx plus 10, what is the value of y when x equals 10? All right, simple enough. We just got to plug 8 in for x. So we get y equals 5 times 8 plus 10. Y equals 40, because that's 5 times 8, plus 10. And we get y equals 40 plus 10, which is 50. So that's going to be the correct answer choice for number 6. Okay, number 7. Looks like we got a graph here, but let's read what it's talking about. So the bar graph shows the distribution of 419 cans, okay, collected by 10 different groups, so 1 through 10. How many cans were collected by group 6? So this is going to be the group we're looking at. Let's go find group 6 over here, and then they're asking how many cans were collected, so look up, find it on the y-axis, and we see that it's 40 cans in total for group 6, so that's going to be the correct answer for number 7. All right, number 8, it gives us a table and it says it's the distribution of voters for new school mascot for 80 students. Okay. If one of these students is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a student whose vote for a new mascot was for a lion? So we're looking for any student, so they don't specify whether it's a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader, they just say any student that voted for a lion. So let's look. What you got to do is find the total number of votes. So we can see that in the bottom right corner, and it's given to us up top. That's for 80 students, so that means that there's 80 votes total. And it's asking for probability of selecting a student who voted for a lion. So we don't have to look at 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. All we have to see is the total number of votes for a lion, which we see here is 20. So if 20 votes were for a lion, out of 80 votes total, what is the probability? Well, now we just need to simplify. So clearly, that's going to be 2 over 8. There's going to be a 1/4. So there's a 25% chance, or 1 out of 4 people voted for a lion, and so that's the likelihood we're going to be able to choose a student who voted for a lion out of the entire pool. So C is the correct answer choice for number 8. All right, number 9. The graph represents the total charge in dollars by an electrician for X hours of work. So this is the total charge in dollars for X hours of work. So obviously the more he works, the more he charges. That's what this graph is showing. The electrician charges a one-time fee plus an hourly rate. So this should be the difference from 0 to here is that one-time fee. What is the best interpretation of the slope of the graph? So the slope is going to be the rate of change. So let's think about this. Y equals mx plus b. Well, if the one-time fee is the y-intercept, well then this is the one-time fee. And he charges X amount of dollars per X amount of hours worked. So this is hours worked. And so this must be the money he makes per hour, because the total he makes is going to be the per hour times the hours work plus the one-time fee. So what is the best interpretation of the slope? Well, over here, we just said it. M is the slope of an equation, and it's going to be the number of dollars per hour. So let's look at the answer choices. His hourly rate, yep, because your hourly rate is the amount you make per hour, hence hourly rate. Electrician's one-time fee, no, that's going to be B. That's going to be our y-intercept. The maximum amount that the electrician charges, no, actually nowhere on the graph does it mention he has a maximum amount. So the total amount that the electrician charges, well, that's not the slope. That's going to be the points along the line. So we know that it's going to be A for answer choice 9, or for number 9. Yeah, there we go. All right, number 10. Square X has a side length of 12 centimeters. So whenever you see a shape and they give you its values and lengths, width, height, etc., always draw it out. Just helps you better understand it. So we know it's going to be 12 centimeters all the way around. And this is square X. The perimeter of square Y is 2 times the perimeter of square X. Okay, so we have a new square. This is going to be Y. And let's make his values X. What is the length in centimeters of one side of square Y? So we're just trying to find 1x for this square. But we know that all these x's added up, so x plus x plus x plus x, so 4 times x, equals 2 times the perimeter of square x. little confusing, but 4x equals 2 times the perimeter of that square, is what I'm trying to say. So let's find the perimeter of square x. Well, it's just going to be 12 added 4 times, so it's going to be 4 times 12, which is 48. And so that is its perimeter. And now we know that 4x equals 2 times 48 because we found p, we're plugging it into the equation. So now we know it's 2x equals 48 because I just subtracted or divided both sides by 2. And then we get x equals 24 by dividing 48 by 2. And so that's how we get answer choice D for number 10. Number 11. What is the equation of the line that passes through point 0, 5 and is parallel to the graph of this? All right, so what they mean by parallel is when you have two parallel lines, it means their slopes are the same. So m equals m. So if we find the slope for y equals 7x plus 4, we know that it's 7. So that's the hint that they're giving us. So we know for this new line, it's going to be y equals 7x plus what? And so that's what we need to find. But they do that by giving us points 0 and 5. That means when x equals 0, y equals 5. That is the y-intercept. So actually we can finish up this equation knowing that it's the same slope as this line, so 7x, and the y-intercept is 5, so b is going to be 5. So now we know that this is the correct equation. So let's look at the answer choices. A is out because it doesn't have a b, because the b is 5, and the slope's wrong. B is looking pretty good. That's exactly what we drew. C has no y-intercept. And then this is the incorrect slope, so we know B is the best answer choice for number 11. All right, number 12. In the linear function h, when x is 0, it equals 41, and then when x is 1, it equals 40. And what I mean by whenever you see that, it means x is that value, so x is 0, x is 1. So which equation defines h? Okay, so what they're doing is they're giving us the y-intercept. So we know that it's at when x equals 0, y equals 41. So that's the y-intercept. So we get 41. We're going to try to get a y equals mx plus b, but we know b is the y-intercept, and so that's why that's 41. And then we know when x equals 1, it goes to 40. Okay, so, I mean, if you drew those points, it would start here. When you put in 1, it would end there. So we know it's going to be a negative slope for the line. So we know x, or m, is at least negative. So we get y equals negative mx plus 41. And so looking at the answer choices, obviously I like A. It gives us both the positive y-intercept and the negative slope. B doesn't give us the y-intercept. C, that's not the slope. It's giving us a negative. It's mixed up the y-intercept with the negative slope, so that's wrong. And then D doesn't even include an x value. It just gives us, that should be just a vertical line, but that's incorrect. So A is going to be the best answer choice here for 12. Okay, number 13. The function f of t equals 60,000 times 2 to the power of t over 410. This gives us the number of bacteria in a population t minutes after an initial observation, so that's what t stands for. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double? So what we want to do is double the initial population. Well, we got to find the initial population. So the initial population is always going to be when t equals 0, because that's going to be before any minutes have elapsed. So let's plug that into the equation. We know it's f of t equals 60,000. Oops, sorry, put the comma in the wrong place. 60,000 times 2 to the power of t over 410. But we know t is 0, so it's going to be to the power of 0 over 410. And then looking at this, I know that 0 over 410 is 0. But anything to the power of 0, so 2 to the power of 0, actually is going to make it equal 1. So let's redraw that. We get f of 10, or f of t, equals 60,000 times 1. So we know that when t equals 0, the population that we have initially is going to be 60,000. So how do we get 60,000 doubled? Well, if we write it out, we know that it's just going to be 60,000 times 2. But we also see that in this equation. So what do we need to do to make sure this 2 stays a 2? Well, we need to make its exponent equal 1. And that's going to be our big hint here. How do we get the exponent to equal 1? Well, we know the equation, so we just have to get t over 410 to equal 1. And so we know to multiply both sides by 410, and we get t equals 410. And so that's going to be the correct answer. Obviously, if you want to double check, you're more than welcome to plug it into your calculator, but 410 divided by 410 is going to be 1. So that's going to put 2 to the power of 1, which is going to keep it at 2. And that 2 is going to be multiplied by 60,000, and that's going to give us double the initial population. So that's why 410 is the correct answer for number 13. All right, the function f is defined by fx equals x minus 6 times x minus 2 times x plus 6. And the xy plane, the graph of y equals gx, is the result of translating the graph of y equals fx up 4 units. So what is the value of g of 0? Okay, cool. So we know f of x is this equation, so let's draw it out. F of x equals x minus 6, x minus 2, and x plus 6. And so we know g of x is the result of translating that up 4 units. So how would I translate this up 4 units? Well, I'm not going to mess with any of the x values because that's going to translate it side to side or laterally. So all I need to do really is add a plus 4 at the end. Easy enough. So now we know that g of x is actually f of x's equation, so x minus 6 times x minus 2 times x plus 6, all just adding 4. Because that's all you're doing is just messing with the y value and moving it up 4 units so it's a positive 4. So in this equation, what happens when x equals 0? Because we're trying to find g of 0. Well, if we plug it in, we get 0 minus 6, so we're going to get negative 6, times 0 minus 2, so negative 2, times 0 plus 6, so we're going to get 6 here. Then we're just going to add 4 because we're just translating it up 4 units. So we get negative 6 times negative 2, which is going to be positive 12. And then we're going to get 12 times 6, and that's going to give us a positive 72 plus 4. So this is g of x, or it equals 0. So we're going to get g of 0 equals 72 plus 4, 76, and that's why 76 is the correct answer. All right, number 15. A candle is made of 17 ounces of wax. All right. When the candle is burning, the amount of wax in the candle decreases by 1 ounce every 4 hours. Okay. If 6 ounces of wax remain in this candle, for how many hours has it been burning? All right, sweet. So it starts with 17 ounces, and it burns 1 ounce every 4 hours. And we have 6 ounces left. Well, we just need to find the difference because this is the amount of ounces burned. And if we can burn 1 ounce every 4 hours and we have 11 ounces that were burned, we can just take that 11 ounces and multiply it by 4 hours because that's the amount burnt for 1 ounce to be burnt. It takes 4 hours and now we have 11 ounces. So we must need 44 hours. And so that's how you get answer choice D for number 15. All right, number 16. The given equation relates the numbers j, k, and m. Which equation correctly expresses k in terms of j and m? So what we're trying to do, what it looks like, is isolate this k. Get everything on the other side. So let's start. Well, if I draw it out again, 14j plus 5k equals m. Well, immediately let's move this 14j over. So we get f, or 5k equals m minus 14j. And we just need to divide everything by 5. We get k equals m minus 14j all over 5. So that's going to be the answer choice we're looking for. Let's look. All right, well, yep, A's looking pretty good. This one is wrong. Divides only one side by 5, m not the 14. C is wrong because it's going to be a negative 14j and a positive m. And then D is wrong because once again, it multiplies the m by 5, which is just totally wrong. So A is the only answer choice for number 16. All right, number 17. Triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL, where F corresponds to angle J and angles G and K are right angles. So we have two right triangles here. Oop, draw that a little neater. And then it's going to be, G is going to be the right angle FH, and we know it's going to correspond with G and K, J, and L. So it's going to look like that. If the sin of f is 308 over 317, what is the value of the sin of j? Okay, cool. Well, don't spend too much time doing this problem because you need to know that if these triangles are similar to each other, that means all their angles are going to be the same. So the angle of f is going to equal the angle of j. And the angle of G is going to equal the angle of K, and so on. But knowing that F equals J, then wouldn't the sine of F be the same as the sine of J if they're the same angle? The answer is yes. So you actually don't need to do any math for this problem. You just need to know that if similar triangles have similar angles, they have the same angles. And so if the sine of F is 308 over 317, then the sine of j should be the same. So that's why that's the correct answer. That's why B is the correct answer for number 17. All right, number 18. The product of two positive integers is 546. So I guess just x times y equals 546. If the first integer is 11 greater than twice the second integer, what is the smaller of the two integers? So let's pick x being greater than. So we know x equals 11 greater than twice the second integer. So we know it's 2y, so twice the second integer plus 11, so 11 greater. All right, and knowing this, what is y? Well, now we know what x equals in terms of y, so we can probably plug that in. We can redraw it over here as 2y plus 11 times y equals 546, because this is where x used to be. So if we distribute that, we get 2y squared plus 11y equals 546. And it looks like they're setting it up to be an equation. So let's go ahead and move that 546 over and do 2y squared plus 11y minus 546 equals 0. And so what I think the next step would be to use the quadratic equation. So y equals, negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we know that a would be 2, b would be 11, and then c would be negative 546. You can solve it this way. There's a quicker way to solve this problem, and I'll go ahead and show you. This is enough information for you just to plug that into your calculator and find what b would be, or y would be, excuse me. But there's a quicker way, so let me clean this up a little bit. Knowing these two equations, so x times y equals 546, I'm going to move this over. So we know x times y equals 546, and we also know that x equals 2y plus 11. And so a quicker way, instead of using the quadratic equation, would literally use the plug-in method. So what I mean by this is look at this. So this is saying y equals 7. Okay, so when y equals 7, x equals what? Well, let's plug it into this equation. We know it would be 2 times 7, which would be 14, plus 11. So x would equal 25. Okay, so now we have y and we have x. But we know when x and y are multiplied together, they should equal 546. So let's multiply these two together. Well, then you get 25 times 7, but that does not equal 546. So A is wrong. And then we can keep doing that. So now we have y equals 14. So when y equals 14, 2 times 14 would be 2 times 14 would be 28 plus 11, and that would make x equal 39. And then if we multiply 14 times 39, That does equal 546. So we know B is the correct answer. That is a quicker way to do it. Obviously, I think if you end up doing it that way, it's probably because you ran into the quadratic equation and you thought, what's a quicker way to do this? And that's exactly what happened to me. I went through and I said, I don't want to do the quadratic equation, but the plug and chug method right here is a quicker way to do this problem, and you would end up with B14 for Y, and that is the correct answer for number 18. All right, number 19. Which point in xy is a solution to the given system of inequalities on the xy plane? Okay, so looking at this immediately, they pretty much give us three values. So we have negative 14, 0, and a positive 14. So this looks like it's going to be very much a plug-in equation, and they give us two equations right here. And so the best way to set these up is kind of like this. Well, we put y in the middle, and we know that it's going to be less than or equal to. We know it's going to be greater than or equal to. So we know it's going to be greater than or equal to 2x minus 1. It's going to be less than or equal to y. That's going to be less than or equal to x plus 7. And so what we need to do is plug in the values of x and see if we can get the y that fits within this range. So let's do that. Drawing my equation of negative 2x minus 1 is less than or equal to y. It's less than or equal to x plus 7. Plug in. Well, I'm going to go for B and C because those look easy. Plug in 0 and see if I can get a correct answer. So plug in 0 for x. Put in 0 there. Put in 0 there. So we get negative 1 is less than or equal to y. It's less than or equal to positive 7. So are there any y values that hold true for this equation? So negative 14 is not greater than negative 1, so I know B is out. And then positive 14 is not less than or equal to 7, so C is out. So now we know B and C are incorrect answers because they do not fit into that equation. Let's redraw it. So it's negative 2x minus 1 less than or equal to y. That's less than or equal to x plus 7. So let's plug in negative 14 for x. So we get negative 2 times negative 14 minus 1 is less than or equal to y. It's less than or equal to negative 14 plus 7. So we get positive 28 minus 1. So we get 27 is less than or equal to y. That's less than or equal to negative 7. Well, this inequality is untrue. So immediately I know it's wrong. But also, if I have a 0 y value, it's not greater than or equal to 27, and it's not less than or equal to negative 7. So A is out. Well, now we know D is the only answer left. But to double check our work, I would still like to plug it into that equation and make sure we were doing it correctly throughout the other problems. So let's look. Negative 2x minus 1 is less than or equal to y, but it's less than or equal to x plus 7. And we're going to plug in 14 for x. So we get negative 2 times 14 minus 1 is less than or equal to y. It's less than or equal to 14 plus 7. And so we get negative 28 minus 1. So we get negative 29 is less than or equal to y. That's less than or equal to 14 plus 7, which is going to be 21. And sweet. So when we plug in that, we get 0. So is it 0 less than or equal to 21, but greater than or equal to negative 29? Yes. So D is going to be the correct answer choice here for number 19. All right, number 20. What is the smallest solution to the given equation? All right, well, let's look at it. Smallest solution, so we're trying to find what x is going to equal in this equation. So if we have the square root of x minus 2 squared equals square root of 3x plus 34. So what I want to do is square both sides, get rid of the square root. So now I'm left with x minus 2 squared equals 3x plus 34. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this x minus 2. So I'm going to take x minus 2, multiply it by x minus 2. I'm going to get an equation. I'm going to use FOIL. I'm going to get x squared minus 2x plus 4. So I'm going to get x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 3x plus 34. So I'm going to subtract 3x and 34. So I'm going to get x squared minus 4x minus 3x plus 4 minus 34. And I'm going to end up with x squared minus 7x minus 30. And so this is going to be my equation, and I'm going to find the smallest solution. So bringing it over here, what multiples of negative 30 added together would equal negative 7? Immediately, I think of 10 and 3, so it's going to be a negative 10 and a positive 3. I'm going to get x minus 10, x plus 3 equals 0, and it's looking for the smallest solution. So we're going to have x equals 10, because if you set x minus 10 equal to 0, you just add 10. Same with the 3, and you get x equals negative 3. So x equals negative 3 is smaller than x equals negative 10, and that is why it's the correct answer for number 20. So number 21. The regular price of its shirt at a store is $11.70. So the price is $11.70. The sale price of a t-shirt is 80% less than the regular price. So the sale price is the regular price minus 80%, so 0.8 of that regular price. Draw that a little more clearly, it would look like this. The regular price minus 80%, so 0.8 of the regular price. And the sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. So we know the sales price is the store's cost, so we're going to put C as cost. It's 30% greater, so plus 30%, so 0.3 of the cost to acquire the shirt from the store. What was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? So if we know the number we're starting with is 11.7. And so I'm guessing that is the regular price. Oh, it is. It says it up here. So we know that R equals 11.7 and S equals R minus 0.8 times R. And that also equals the cost plus 0.3 of the cost. So if we draw this out, we know S equals 0.2 R. And I got that by taking 1 R minus 0.8 R would equal 0.2 R. Then S would equal 1 C plus 0.3 of C. So 1.3 of C. So all we need to do is plug in 11.75 for R. And let me clean this up a little bit, get us more space to work with. Since we know the logic of how we got that equation, I can put it over there. We can do S equals 0.2 times 11.7. And so S equals, let me plug that into my calculator, and that's going to be 2.34. And then now we know what S is. And S equals 1.3 times C. So now we know 2.34 equals 1.3 times C. And we're trying to find C. So we divide both sides by 1.3. If I move that there, we get 2.34 divided by 1.3. We're going to get 1.8 equals C. And that is our answer for number 21. All right, number 22. A sample of oak has a density of 807 kilograms per cubic meter. So let's write that out. So we know the density equals 807 kilograms per, looks like a cubic meter, so meters cubed. The sample is in the shape of a cube where each edge has a length of 0.9 meters. So let's draw our cube. Connect those. We know each side's going to be 0.9, so base times width times height. To the nearest whole number, what is the mass in kilograms of this sample? So I know we have to use this cube, but I also know the equation for mass is actually density times volume equals mass. So that's what we're going to have to do here. But we have the density, but we need to find the volume. We know the volume of cube is actually one of the lengths cubed was its volume. So let's take 0.9, cube it, and then we're going to end up with 729, and that's going to give us meters cubed. Sweet. So now we have our volume and we have our density. And another way to draw this would be, we know the density is kilograms over meters cubed. And if we just want the kg, well, then we just need to put meters cubed on top. If you multiply them, these cancel out. That's basically what density times volume is doing to find the mass. But let's draw that out. So we know that the volume is going to be 0.729 meters cubed. We're going to multiply that by the density, which is going to be 807 kilograms over meters cubed. So actually we can cancel these out and we're left with 588 with the kilograms on top. And so that's why this is going to be the correct answer for number 22. Okay, number 23. For x is greater than 0, the function f is defined as follows. fx equals 201% of x. Which of the following could describe this function? All right, so looking at this, I would rewrite it immediately. I would just do fx equals 201% of x. So this would actually be, move the decimal over two spaces. It would equal x times 2.1. So the equation would be f of x equals 2.1x. And then you can just imagine plus b, because if you look at this, it's a y equals mx plus b equation. That is a linear equation. And so looking at this linear equation, I can immediately tell it's not decreasing, so it's an increasing equation. So a and b are out. We need to know whether it's exponential or linear. Well, looking at it, we know it's linear because imagine you plugged in values for this. It would look like for every value you moved, you'd go up and over, up and over, up and over, and that would be a linear line. So it's a linear equation. Another way you could do that is plug it into your calculator. See what type of line it produces, because an exponential line would look something like that. But of course, it's looking like that, which means it's a increasing linear equation. So C's out, D is the correct answer for number 23. All right, number 24. Oof. This is giving us a graph. So let's read it. The rational function f is defined by an equation in the form of fx equals a over x plus b, where a and b are constants. Okay, so they're not changing. The partial graph of y equals fx is shown. So this is y equals fx right here. If g of x equals f of x plus 4, which equation could define the function g? Okay, so what this graph is giving us, it doesn't give us any intercepts. It really only gives us 2 points. It gives us -6, -3. So we have -6, -3. And we're given -5, -6. So I don't know if we're going to use these points, but that's pretty much all I can tell from the graph and that it's decreasing. Okay, well, let's look. So if we know f of x equals a over x plus b, and then g of x equals f with their x plus 4. So if I plugged that in, so if I move that here, it would look a little bit like this. It would look like g of x equals a, but for every x, we put x plus 4 plus b, and that written a little more clearly would be just g of x equals a over x plus 4 plus b. And so that's the equation for g of x, because all we did was take the x of in f of x and plug in x plus 4 there, because that's the only difference. And so we need to look at the answer choices and see if there is any answer choice that accurately reflects g of x and how it would look if we knew the a and b constants. So immediately looking at a is wrong because think about it, that denominator needs to be x plus 4 plus b, but this is just x. That's not accurately reflecting the changes that should have occurred in the denominator because it should be plus 4 plus something else. So A is wrong. B is wrong as well because it has the plus 4, but where's that plus B? I'm seeing A. A is the 6. I'm thinking A is the constant in the numerator, and that's where the 6 is coming from. we need to include the 4 and we need to include the b in the denominator, which b does not do. I'm looking at C. I definitely like C. It has A, and it could also have B and that 4 because 8 can just equal 4 plus B. So yeah, C looks good. And then D, no, because nothing should be happening to the numerator. So this x plus 4 should not be in the numerator. And that's what makes D wrong, and we're left with answer choice C as the correct answer for number 24. Number 25. Which expression is equivalent to this expression here? Okay. And so normally I would say simplify these expressions, but these answer choices are a little unique in the fact that none of them are simplified. They're all probably in their most complex form. So maybe that's a hint for later on what you can do to find the answer. But for right now, it looks like I need to combine these two equations and add them together. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take y plus 12, x minus 8, add it to y, x minus 8, all over x squared, y minus 8xy. I can see pretty quickly that there's something to this minus 8 because there's 3 minus 8s. So I'm going to actually simplify the denominator. And if you do that, you can take out one of the x's and one of the y's. So you get xy, x minus 8. And so looks like what they all have in common, what both denominators have in common, is they have this x minus 8. So rewritten, it would look like this. All over xy, x minus 8. And so to get it under like denominators, all I have to do is multiply this side from by x and y in order to be able to add the numerators. So let's go ahead and do that. We get y plus 12 times xy. So let's distribute the x, y, and we get xy squared plus 12x y. And then we would be able to add this y x minus 8 because we'd have like denominators, and at the bottom we would have xy x minus 8. And so even then, it looks like we need to de-simplify it and distribute this y and distribute this xy for the numerator and denominator. So we would get xy squared plus 12x y plus, and it would be yx minus 8y. And if we did that on the bottom, we'd get x squared y minus 8xy. And even then, looking at the denominator, I can see that C is the only one with it. So this is likely my answer choice. But even then, I need to further de-simplify this by adding these values. So I would get xy squared plus, it looks like it'd be 13xy because I would add these two together, minus 8y all over x squared y minus 8xy, and that is answer choice C still. So that's the correct answer for number 25. This problem is pretty unusual for the SAT because the SAT usually likes you to simplify it. So normally, if I were doing this, I would have canceled out all the x minus 8s, the y, but it didn't look like, looking at the answer choices, they kind of gave you a hint that you want to keep the x and y's in place and don't simplify completely, because if looking at the answer choices, they clearly did not do that. So that's why this is unusual. Usually you simplify, but for this one, you had to keep all the different numbers and then eventually multiply them together, get common denominators, add the numerators, etc. But that's how you end up with answer choice C for number 25. All right, number 26. The table shows the results of a poll. A total of 803 voters Okay, so that would be 803 voters total. Selected at random were asked which candidate they would vote for in the upcoming election. According to the poll, 6,424 people vote in the election. Okay. How many votes would Angel Cruz be, by how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win? So, how many votes would she win over the other person? And this is the amount of votes she won by. It's kind of a way to rephrase that. So, the way we find this is we need to find the percentage of votes that went to Angel Cruz and the percent of votes that went to Terry Smith. So, we can do that by taking 483, and this is the amount of votes that Angel Cruz won, and dividing it by the total amount of votes. And we find that, let me see, 483 divided by 803, we find that 0.6015% of the votes went to Angel Cruz, or this would be 60.15%. And so we need to find the amount of votes that went to Terry Smith. So do the same thing, 320 over 803. Or you could do 1 minus 0.6015. Both would get you the same answer of 0.3985. And so what we can do with this number is we can take this number and multiply it by the pretend amount of votes. So this would be the 6,424, and this is guessing how many votes would go to Angel Cruz. So we do 6,424 and multiply it by that 0.6015, because that's the amount of votes that would go to her, or the amount of votes in the original poll that went to Angel Cruz. So if we do 6,424 times 0.6015, we would end up with 3,864 votes. Cool. And so we need to find the amount of votes that went to Terry Smith. So let's do the same thing, 6,424. 6,424 times be 0.3985. So times 0.3985, and that would get you your 2,559 votes. And so the difference here is going to be the amount of votes she won by. So what we need to do is take 3,864 and subtract 2,559, and you would be left with, let me plug that in my calculator, 3,864 minus 2,559, be left with 1,305. And I think that might have been a rounding error on my end. It's 0.96. So maybe make this 2,560. You would get 1,304, and that would be answer choice B for 26. And so, yeah, watch out. C is a pretty easy answer to get mixed up, but read carefully because it's by how many votes would Angela Cruz be expected to win, not how many votes she would receive, and that was what answer choice C was. So that's pretty tricky on the SAT part, but that's why B is the correct answer for 26. All right, number 27. The graph of x squared plus x plus y squared plus y equals 199 over 2. And the xy plane is a circle. All right, so this is the equation of a circle. If we need a reminder, the equation for a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And so we're looking for the length of the circle's radius. So what is r in this equation? And so what we're given is this. And so what we're going to need to do in order to turn this portion into that portion, it's going to be called completing the square. And so how we do that over here is we're going to take the x squared plus x plus y squared plus y equals 199 for 2. So let's look at just this portion. To complete the square, what you do is you get the middle coefficient and you divide it by 2. So you take that 1, you divide it by 2, you get 1/2, and then you square it. And that's how you find the edge term. And what I mean is you take x squared plus x plus, and then this is going to be the 1 over 2, so 1/2 squared is actually 1/4, and plus 1/4. And that's how you complete the square. That's how you turn this into that equation. And since you turned it into that equation, you can break it down further and you can get x plus 1/2 squared. And if you do FOIL, you can actually find that this, in between the parentheses, squared will equal x squared plus 1/4. And one thing we do need to note is since we're adding this 1/4 to the end, we need to add it to this end as well. Because if you add it to one side, you need to add it to the other. And we're going to do the same exact thing for y. So we're going to take the middle coefficient of y, we're going to divide it by 2, we're going to get 1/2, and we're going to square it, and we're going to get 1/4. So that's going to be plus y squared plus y plus 1/4. And then once again, you're going to have to add that 1/4 to this side as well. And it all makes sense at the end. And then to break this down, you can actually take this and put it between parentheses and you get y plus 1/2 squared. And so now we have this equation equals 199 over 2 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. And once again, we're adding 1/4 to both sides because we completed the square and added it here. And so let me draw this a little more clearly. So now what we have is x plus 1/2 squared plus y plus 1/2 squared equals 199 over 2 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. So we need to get these into common denominators. So what I need to do is take 2 multiplied by 199 multiplied by the 2 at the bottom, and then just taking this portion, we get 398 over 4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, and that gives us 400 over 4, and that gives us 100. So drawing that all out again, we get this side. So we've gotten our equation of a circle. So plus 1/2 squared plus 1/2 squared equals 100. And if you bring it all the way back to the top to the equation of a circle, you realize that 100 equals r squared. Let's take the square root. Then you get 10 equals r. And so 10 is the correct answer for number 27.